host for tonight, Mr. Barth Gimbel. Tonight, Barth's guest will be Mrs. Nettie Foreman and Barbie Osgood with a special position for pornography. Mr. Philip Maltby, who went into labor and ended up in jail. And Happy Kine and the Mirth Makers. And me, I'm Jerry Hubbard. And now, your host and mine, Mr. Barth Gimbel.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you all. Hi.
Off and running,
eh?
Yes.
You know what I did over the weekend? I decided, let's find out what the young people are doing. We've been doing so many things for people middle-aged and older. Let's find out about the young people, because I'm concerned with the young people. What are they doing? What are they thinking? Oh, boy, that's important to me. So what I did was I tried to think about folk music. I know the kids are popular with that stuff. They love it. And I try to think about folk music about 2 or 3 times a day in general anyway, because that's top. Well, how many people remember the old folk music scare of the 60s? That was close, wasn't it? That garbage almost cut on there, Jerry. And anyway, I was thinking about it and thinking specifically, what was the first music ever made in this great country of ours? And I was thinking and thinking and hoping it wasn't that fiddle and banjo garbage. I think we've come a little further, do you know what I mean? So I was thinking about that, and then I said to myself, why think? Look it up.
That was good thinking right there.
Exactly. So I did. I looked it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, how did I get into the Britannica in the first place? Kind of an interesting story, and since we have a light show, I think I can kill a few minutes here and tell you. I was on the road as a performer in a small, strange town, not unlike Fernwood. I don't mean to say this is a strange town. It's a wonderful town. It's going to be even better, I think, when they finish it. I'm looking forward to that. But I checked into the Holiday Inn, beautiful little room, with that kind of quilted pad on the bed that I like so much. Those pillows that just don't get old, change their shape in the night. They have that one shape and they stay that way. It was just great. They had a little thing on the wall with that reprocessed Neil Diamond music coming through. 2 settings on that, Jerry. It had soft and softer, and it was kind of romantic, to be honest. And, well, quite frankly, something was missing in that kind of romantic situation. It was just me and my instrument, of course. And so I decided I needed something to make it a little bit more romantic, not just me and the guitar. So I have to tell you, quite honestly, since there's just a few of us here and we're local, I can tell you, that night, I got lucky. Yep. I was able to find what I thought was a really good book. It was a book I thought was perfect. It was called Girl to Grab.
Ooh. Whoa.
Yeah, imagine my surprise when that turned out to be Volume 6 of the Encyclopedia Britannica. The Encyclopedia Britannica.
Do you have all the volumes of the encyclopedia?
I think we do now.
Maybe a set for me.
I think we can do that.
Encyclopedia Britannica, which no home is.
I think
really...
we have 2 sets now. That's great. But it was a nice book, actually. It had everything in it. Golf carts, glowworms, Giselle McKenzie, you name it. So I looked up folk music, and that's right. I looked up folk music in that book, and I was quite pleased to find out that I was quite right. It wasn't that fiddle and banjo garbage at all. In fact, and this is what's really interesting, the first music ever made in this great country of ours was not made in this country.
Seems like almost a contradiction there. Would you explain that?
It was made, Jerry, it was made a few miles offshore
I thought
by Columbus.
Probably within the United States limits, though, water...
within the 3-mile limit, yeah. So it is ours.
Yes.
By Columbus and his merry men coming over in their ship. Now, I know that Happy Kine, the guys in the band, are going to say, hey, Barth, bull. How could they make music on that little tiny ship? Where'd they put the amps? Okay.
Where did they put them?
Well, Jerry, what they did is they sang a cappella. A cappella. Or Acapulco, as you might say.
I hate to sound pedantic, but I think the term is a la cappella. So like a la carte or without charts.
Exactly. It was without any charts at all, so it was a la carte.
I hate to be the little professor here, but...
Well, you were the professor. Jerry read the book with me, and they had all the lyrics of this thing printed out, and so busy with so many other things, all my gifts to like the Kidney Foundation and other public service things that I've been doing, that I somehow, I guess I misplaced the slip of paper with the lyrics. But Jerry, you came through. Jerry says he remembers them perfectly. He got with our cue card people here tonight. He's written them down. Yeah, it's pretty good of you. And we're going to try to do it tonight from those cue cards with the help of Jerry Hubbard and myself, Happy Kind and the orchestra. Here is the very first song ever written within the 3-mile limit of our country. Hope you enjoy it. This is going to be a la carte, as you say. There will be no instruments, and you're going to have to help us, if you will. So we're going to hit a note, and maybe you can hit it with us, okay? Great. Now maybe you can do waves, okay? That's good, okay. Now the tragically hip can sit this out, okay? That's good. It's great to be on a ship with men and sail across the sea. Oh, we don't know where we'll land or when, but it's great to be with men.
It's great to be with men.
'Cause men can sweat and men can stink and no one seems to care. Oh, throw the dishes in the sink and clog the drain with hair. Oh,
We'll clog the drain with hair.
men, men, men. It's a ship all filled with men. So batten down the ladies' room.
There's no one here but men, 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 men.
There's men above, there's men below, there's men down in the galley. Butch and Spike and Buzz and Biff and one guy we call Sally.
Sally, men, men, men.
It's a ship all filled with men.
You'll never have to lift a seat. There's no one here but men, 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 men,
Men, men, men, men, men, men,
men, men.
We're men and friends until the end, and none of us are sissies. At night we sleep in separate beds, blow each other kisses.
And blow each other kisses.
Men, 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 men. It's a ship all filled with men. You'll never need deodorant. There's no one here but men. Amen. We'll be right back after this commercial.
Well, I'm glad that song we did then. When it did, I was getting a little seasick, a little mal de mer.
Yeah, I was just getting plain old sick.
Maybe. That queasy feeling, anyway.
Yep. On Fernwood tonight, we like to occasionally deal with important issues. Things that are being talked about by our community and things that are going on in the community. We like to make sure, however, that both sides of any argument are heard. And we call this segment, The Other Side of the News.
You read the paper, you watch TV, you make an opinion from what you see. But maybe now you'll change your view when you hear the other side of the news.
Thank you. You can always count on Happy Kind. Isn't he terrific?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk all over the country, and indeed even here in Fernwood, about the overabundance of pornography that's been in our communities.
Isn't that something?
Isn't it terrible? Or maybe it isn't.
Well, I don't know. You'd be surprised. Some of the stuff that's on those magazine racks now, I'll walk by, and you can't help but having it fly into your face, and I'll leaf through it, and sometimes have to go back to leaf through it 2 and 3 times to believe
what you're seeing.
I'll buy an occasional copy and take it home, but
That's right.
just it really is another thing that gives me that queasy feeling.
I know how you feel. We've been hearing a lot lately from citizens in favor, actually, of pornography, and freedom of the press, I guess, is the big issue here.
There's 2 sides to every story.
That's it, super salad. The freedom of the consenting adult to choose his own forms of entertainment. Tonight, we're going to hear an opposing viewpoint, which is kind of interesting, from 2 ladies who are against pornography. They have formed a group called 2 Ladies Against Pornography. Please welcome Mrs. Nettie Foreman and Barbie Osgood.
Glad to have
ladies.
you piped aboard here. Not letting you forget that ship, Barth. You
Maybe
put us on it.
Should I button this? Don't want
Not for us, honey.
Ladies, welcome to the other side of the news. Understand you're a little bit upset about all the pornography in Fernwood.
You go to the book stands, you go to the vending machines, and in the moving picture theaters, they want you, they show you this and that, and deep this and deep that.
They have cheerleaders in chains and stewardesses in what have you.
I think those are movie titles.
Those would be movie titles, yeah.
Yes, it's
Maybe
all
even
sex.
themes.
So,
Whatever happened to love?
Well, I guess some people love sex. It's a thought. I don't mean to be rude, ladies, but I think what you're asking here are really the old, typical, worn-out questions. Why do we need dirty books? Why do they continue to let this continue? Why don't they stop it? Who needs it? Et cetera, et cetera.
Why don't they put us senior citizens in these porno flicks?
There's a new question. That's not worn out at all yet. You mean you would like to see people your age performing in those films? Would you appear in those films?
We're not hung up on this trash at all.
Mm-hmm.
But we would like to have a porno director invite us so we could turn him down and tell him to stuff it.
Oh, boy. You certainly know the young people's jargon.
We just don't want to be ignored in this question of sex.
Well, bless your heart. There's something
And
wrong
just
here.
because we don't hang around in the drive-in movies and don't spend weekends in a Chevy van doesn't mean that we've lost our drive. It just means that we've kept our principles.
Well, that's wonderful, isn't it? That's terrific. But you know something, ladies, and I should call you that. There's something wrong here. I mean, I personally think, and I'm sure everyone agrees with me, the old are fine. They sit and they rock, they watch game shows, they knit great socks. They always smell clean, which is something that's close to me, and they're always happy to tell you about the things they remember from years and years ago, but people your age should be doing other things, I think, than these films. You've got grandchildren and sons and daughters to visit and buy sweaters for.
Where do you think the sons and daughters came from, huh, Barth?
I think that's an easy enough question to answer. Let's find out where you all came from. How many came by bus? Out-of-towners, hands up, maybe by airplane. Oh, of course, there is not a nearby airfield. Maybe they'd have to land further away than if they drove down here. Or any from private transportation who are here from the town?
Jerry?
Yes.
Excuse me for one second. It's very nice talking to you, ladies, and I'll certainly remember. Next time I go past an old folks' home, I'll remember that there's maybe something going on in there. This actually, it just occurs to me if I can take a second, shed some light on something that happened in my own life when my brother Garth and I put Mom in the home shortly before. She sent us the loveliest little note and said, you know, Barth, I was really touched by some of the people here at the home. Now I have a pretty good idea what she was talking about. That's wonderful. And I think your work has done some wonderful things for other people here in the community. I want to thank you, and I hope you can come back and see us again. Okay? We'll be right back after this word. Happy kind in the orchestra, Jerry Hubbard, Barth Kimball. With the unemployment problem getting out of hand in this country, the Labor Department has recently been cracking down on illegal aliens, especially Mexicans who are working in this country. Our next guest has been intimately involved in this labor problem. He was imprisoned for smuggling aliens across the border, but he has paid his debt to society, okay? And has relocated to start a new life here in Ohio. I think that's wonderful, don't you?
Yes.
Please welcome Mr. Philip Maltby. Olé!
Cabeza de vaca.
Hacienda.
All those things, yes.
Phil, we appreciate your sharing your story with us tonight. As I understand it, you took Mexican workers from their villages and smuggled them illegally into the United States.
Well, not exactly, Barth. Actually, I smuggled Americans into Mexico.
Oh, boy. I'm sorry, I had no idea that was going on.
Oh, yes, yes, indeed.
You mean those Mexicans have a law prohibiting Americans from working down there?
I'm afraid they do, yes.
That's outrageous. It's part of the American Constitution, which ensures every American worker the right to work whenever and wherever he wants to. Freedom of movement is part of what this country is about. Take Barth here. He moved up here from Florida. No one particularly asked him to, nor wanted him to, although we were not trying to stop him from doing it. But after all, he is a consenting adult.
Jerry, Mexico is a separate country. They have their own laws.
Oh, sure. Our laws aren't good enough for them, huh? Okay. Say no more. Say no more.
Excuse me, can I speak to him for just 1 second? Phil, I understand this correctly. You were smuggling American workers into Mexico. Now,
That's
after hearing
exactly
that, I think we all have the same question pretty much in our mind, except for Jerry. I think what we're all asking ourselves is really, why would an American want to work in Mexico unless he happens to be particularly handy with jewelry or really likes the food?
Well, actually, Barthy, the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of Americans who are poor and unskilled and uneducated with no real prospects for a job.
Are you hearing this, Jerry?
Well, with all the Mexicans being smuggled up here, there's a tremendous vacuum in the job market down there, and there's an opportunity that I just took advantage of.
Well, what kind of jobs are available for these poor, unskilled Americans in Mexico?
Well, busboys, maids, garbage collectors. As a matter of fact, there's a tremendous demand for grape pickers and, well, guitar pickers, and all sorts of pickers, as a matter of fact.
When you say all sorts of pickers, I think you're beating around the bush, and I think I know what kind of bush here. Because I've heard about some of the miscellaneous crops they grow down there.
Exactly right.
Okay. For some of you people who are directly connected to the church or for some reason have not heard of these things, let me put it right on the table. We're talking about growing grass.
Down in Mexico?
Yeah.
You bet.
They're famous
Just
for it.
like an underdeveloped country, thank God we here in America can raise wheat and send it overseas and sell it over there. A country like Mexico is still having their hands full selling, raising grass.
That's right.
And where's the market for grass? Most major ballparks use AstroTurf. Can't even put it on a cemetery plot anymore.
Jerry, the grass we're talking about is marijuana. Okay? Reefer, lids, Griffo, boo.
I think I'm getting your drift.
Yeah,
I'm nobody's fool.
No, Jerry, I've never experimented myself. I know some people have shot the stuff, you know, but if they want to take their life in their hands that way, that's their business, but not me. Now, speaking of drugs, etc., you can get busted, too, which is another bad problem, okay? When you were busted,
Yes.
did they throw you right in jail?
But I lucked out, Barth, because I was arrested on October 13th, a very well-known Mexican national holiday.
You say well known. I mean,
Yeah.
you're pretty international. I frankly don't know about the rest of you. What is October 13th?
Well, that's the day the new Chevys come out.
They only have so many booklets, they can only go so far. Everyone wants to go
Exactly right.
home and see the options that are available, of course. Well, you finally confessed then. What was the prison like itself?
The prison was just as dreadful as you've heard. All those dreadful stories, every single one of them is true. The place I was thrown into, there was no ceiling, no roof, no floor. All we had was walls, believe me. And the
I'll be
food,
darned.
the food was simply appalling. It was dreadful.
And
Absolutely.
probably very small portions to boot, huh?
Absolutely right. And
Heard stories, I think we all have, about the cockroaches, or la cucarachas.
yes.
So easy when you know the language. And the rats in the prisons. Is that true?
Well, it was true when I was thrown in, but that night the guards left a window open and they all escaped.
Good thinking on the guards' part.
And the
I bet you-
cockroaches.
Oh, of course. I bet you're kind of glad to be out of there, and I'm sure you feel
bet
better
I am.
that
You bet I
now that
am,
you've
Greg.
paid your debt to Mexican
Yes,
society.
I feel I've learned my lesson. I've really learned. I've found out that actually there are many ways to take advantage of other people without having to break the law.
Well, I think we do that every day. Where do you go from here? What does a guy do whose background is smuggling Americans into Mexico?
Well, actually, Barth, you might not think so to look at me, but I've always had a hankering to get into women's clothes. And clothes Clothes of all sorts. And I've opened a fashion boutique here.